afternoon.
Hi, I'm Mel, and this week for our Real Hope Lent series, we'll be reflecting on the Disney Pixar film Up. In this film, the retired balloon salesman Carl Fredricksen, who's part rascal and part dreamer, takes to the sky by tying thousands of helium-filled balloons to his house. What Carl doesn't know is that a young wilderness explorer called Russell is an unexpected stowaway on the adventure. I'm going to give us a recap of the film, and at certain points during the recap I'll ask questions. The questions are just for you, personal questions that might help you to use the film to reflect on things. I'll list the questions at the end so you can pause the video then, but I'll also give more general questions later that we can share in our group discussions. So join me as we take some time to journey through some parts of the film. We meet the cheeky but very shy Carl at the beginning of the film as a young boy. He watches a film of Paradise Falls, laced with promises of undiscovered animals and adventure. His childhood hero is Charles Munst, a character promising adventure in Paradise Falls. But his hero, Charles, is accused of false claims when he says he's discovered an exotic bird, claims that Carl thinks are ridiculous. One day, Carl is out walking as a young boy and he spots a door that reads, "The Spirit of Adventure." That marks the beginning of his long-term relationship with his fun-filled, confident best friend and future wife, Ellie. Ellie gives Carl a badge that day, a badge that signifies belonging and like-mindedness. Charles Munst is her childhood hero too, and Ellie and Carl promise that one day they'll go to Paradise Falls. I wonder what dreams you might have dreamed when you were a child. And so the next few scenes take us through multiple scenes of Carl and Ellie's relationship. They get married, they go on picnics. He works all of his life as a balloon salesman and Ellie works in a zoo. They read together, they dream together, they get excited together as Ellie gets pregnant, and they deal with loss together as Ellie loses the baby. Carl holds Ellie at that time. He gives her hope. He gives her the adventure book that she made, and he reminds her of her dreams. But then things get in the way of their dreams. The car tyre needs fixing, healthcare needs paying for, the house needs fixing after a storm. And time passes. Carl and Ellie grow older. And just as Carl buys tickets to go to Paradise Falls, Ellie gets ill. She becomes too ill to hold on to her dreams, and she pushes the adventure book away. Next we see the empty church, following Ellie's funeral, with Carl left alone. You know, through their lives together, Carl and Ellie continued to dream. I wonder which of your dreams have been realised and which ones you've had to let go of. We next see Carl in his house. He still has the badge and the tickets on his mantelpiece. Carl has fossilised his life with Ellie in his home. Nothing changes for Carl as the whole neighbourhood around him changes. Then, one day, a wilderness explorer comes knocking at his door. Russell is full of enthusiasm and dreams, and he wants Carl to help him get his badge. Carl does well in giving Russell a misguided task. One day, in Carl's desperation to hold on to what he feels is precious, he loses sight of perspective. He hits a man with his stick and ends up being pushed towards a retirement home. That night, as he's packing, Carl comes across Ellie's adventure book. It reminds him of his promise to go to Paradise Falls. And as the people the next morning come to collect him for the retirement home, Carl releases all of the balloons and his house lifts off. Shortly after, he discovers his stowaway, Russell. And the two of them hold on to things that are precious as they steer their way through the storm. Eventually they land, and as the mist clears, they realise that they're within walking distance of Paradise Falls. They can't get back up to the house which they've fallen out of on their crash landing, so they plan to drag the floating house tethered by a garden hose with them as they walk. We often hold on to things from our past, things that slow us down on our journey. I wonder what we may need to let go of to help us make progress. It's not too long before Carl and Russell come across the elusive bird that Charles Munst and his trained pack of dogs is trying to find. They make friends with the elusive bird via a bar of chocolate, and whilst Russell is thrilled at their newfound pet, Carl is less thrilled. They also soon come across an outcast of the vicious pack of dogs in the guise of a dopey retriever called Doug. As much as Carl tries, he cannot shake his funny band of unlikely companions. Carl was accompanied by such a mixed bunch. I wonder who the people are in your life that accompany you and enrich your journey. Eventually, they come across Charles Munst. Carl's impressions are dashed when he realises his childhood hero doesn't measure up to his expectations. We weave our way through the capture of the exotic bird, named Kevin by Russell, mid-air battles and on-foot chase, before we hear the words from Russell, "The wilderness is not quite as I expected." What might have turned out differently to what you expected in your life? After the battle between the group and Charles Munst, Carl sits in his chair next to Ellie's empty chair and he opens the adventure book. He's never before looked past the first few pages. Carl had failed to look at all the things they had done because he was too busy concentrating on what they hadn't done. The words at the end of the adventure book Ellie had left for Carl were, "Now go and have a new one." At the end of the film, the bird, now named Kevin, goes back to its babies. Carl and Russell have the blimp to go off in for future adventures. But more than that, Carl attends Russell's Wilderness Explorer ceremony and he gives him the Ellie badge, a badge that signifies belonging and adventure. As we went through, I asked you questions that you might want to reflect on by yourself. Maybe you could just mull over one or two of them before we gather. These were the questions. What dreams did you have when you were a child? Which of your dreams were realised and which have you had to let go of? What might we need to let go of to help us move forwards? Who are the people that accompany us on our journey? And what might have turned out differently to what you expected? When we meet together, there'll be some more general questions that we can chat about. Until then, I hope you enjoyed the film.